quirk isn't what you should be jealous of. You should be envying his skills.
This boy out here committing multiple crimes. No one says anything about it. Here's something that you probably didn't know about me. I used to be obsessed with My Hero Academia. After a friend recommended it back in 2016, I tuned in for every season, shot through the manga as fast as possible, binged numerous channels dedicated to fan theories, shout out to Turtle Quirk by the way, and spent an excessive amount of money on merchandise, and did everything else an excellent little stan would. Hell, I even started a My Hero Academia podcast to break down each and every episode in excruciating detail. Needless to say, there was a time when I was so firmly planted deep within Horikoshi's guts that I could break down his diet on a molecular level. The series just gripped me as so few had done before or since. It accomplished this by dedicating entire arcs to fleshing out side characters like Ida, by taking the time to humanize Shigaraki, and by daring to ask questions about the nature of heroism itself. So you might be asking yourself, what changed? What could possibly happen that would make a die-hard fan like me pack up all of his My Hero merch and sell it at a loss? Well, it all started with the return of a familiar face. Anyway, my name is Von Hyde, I'm That Isekai Guy, and this is My Hero Academia, a world without consequence. My Hero Academia by Kohei Horikoshi began all the way back on July 7th, 2014 with the release of Izuku Midoriya Origin and Weekly Shonen Jump. Since then, the series has gone on to publish 32 manga volumes with more yet to come, several spin-off series including My Hero Academia Vigilantes, team-up missions, school briefs, and more. Outside of print media, the series is currently in its 6th season, and as of 2021 has 3 feature films under its belt, with no word yet on a 4th. For those who don't know, the series follows the aforementioned Izuku Midoriya, also known as Deku, as he braves the world of commercial heroics after having inherited only the most super of powers from his idol and current #1 hero, All Might. Throughout the series, we watch as Izuku tries to both get a handle on his newfound power and be worthy of it, all while juggling the realities of a world that he's only ever viewed through the lens of a fanboy. Now, I'm not afraid to say that there was a time when I wholeheartedly labeled My Hero peak fiction. Seasons 1 through 3 of the anime are probably some of my favorite animated properties of all time. Horikoshi was able to build up the mythos of All for One so well over the seasons that once we finally got to witness his power, even in a diminished capacity, the breath was suctioned out of my lungs as if the emptiness of space had engulfed me. I vividly remember the first time I watched All for One walk out of that ruined building. The sound of his footsteps slowly approaching as his robotic voice echoed through the halls, only to reveal a creature that we culturally have been taught to fear ever since the release of A New Hope all the way back in 1977. This, in conjunction with the ensuing battle, is why My Hero will always hold a special place in my heart. That's not to say that these seasons were anything close to perfect. The first is somewhat short and feels a bit disjointed as we bounce from one plot point to the next with no driving force to the narrative. Season 2's opening act has some of the worst background work in the series, and I still can't stand the cognitive dissonance of the teachers during the final exam arc, admonishing the students for not taking their scenarios seriously while also doing the same things themselves. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about you, Snipe. You could have at least winged Shoji. Bro's got 6 arms and all you can shoot at are pillars in the ground? Take this seriously, my ass. And season 3 is pretty great. Following up the battle between All for One and All Might with the licensing exam was kind of weird, but we then get Bakugo's confrontation with Deku, which makes up for all of its shortcomings in my opinion. Seasons 4, 5, and now 6 are good in their own right, but this is where cracks begin to form in the foundation of this series. Those very cracks, while not the main reason that I and many others put down the series, are the origin point of everything that is wrong with My Hero today. So let's take a moment to dive deep into the 3 major issues plaguing My Hero Academia, starting with its complete and utter lack of stakes. For a series that's predicated on saving the world from total annihilation, there is a surprising lack of consequence when it comes to our main cast of characters outside of things like disciplinary action. I know this sounds callous, especially because they're kids, but ever since the forced training arc all the way back in season 3, I've been very vocal about wanting one of the class 1A members to die. Just think about all of the times these literal children have been put in life or death situations. It just seems inconceivable that not one of them has died. And it's almost as if Horikoshi knows that people feel this way, but just isn't brave enough to take a chance on killing one of them. I say this because he continues to give us the Stranger Things treatment. Instead of killing off a major character, Horikoshi creates an entirely new one for that explicit purpose. For instance, back in season 4, we were introduced to All Might's former sidekick, Sir Night-Eye. In the beginning, he was built up as a new mentor figure for Deku as he took his first steps into real heroics during his work study at the Night-Eye Agency. But Horikoshi pulled the good old switcheroo on us, as Night-Eye's true intention behind taking on Deku was to bully him into giving up One for All to Mirio. I don't know why I do that. As the story slowly moved toward the raid on the Shie Hasaikai, it was obvious that Horikoshi wanted the audience to get attached to Night-Eye. He understood that what made All Might so special wasn't just his quirk, but the way he saved people with a reassuring smile on his face. So naturally, everyone should resonate with him, right? I mean, he definitely wanted to bully a child into giving away his entire future. That's not a big deal. I mean, it worked for Aizawa. Why wouldn't it work again? Fast forward a few episodes and homie's getting double penetrated like Piper Perry. So did someone die? Yes. Did that death have weight? Not really. Not only was Night-Eye kind of an ass, but we, the audience, had so little time with him that his death just rolls off like water on a duck's back. It also doesn't help that his death is largely inconsequential. Everything and everyone associated with him gets pushed to the wayside after this season. The Night-Eye Agency is rarely brought up, and when they are, they're working in conjunction with other heroes like the raid on Jakku Hospital. Hell, Mirio even fades into the background after this, only to be brought out as an accessory to Eri. So did his death really matter? No, in my opinion, it didn't. If Red Riot or Sun Eater would have died during the raid, you'd best believe that I'd be on the floor in the fetal position, sobbing my eyes out. But Night-Eye? Come on, you could do better than that. Now, I know that Night-Eye wasn't the only life lost during the raid arc, or I guess metaphorically it wasn't, as Mirio's life of heroics was taken as well. But I'd argue that this had no real effect on the story either, as it was obvious from the get-go that Eri would use her quirk to rewind Mirio, thus returning his quirk. All that she needed was a little time. This was proven to be true in the war arc, as Lemillion returns just in the nick of time, but we'll talk about him in just a little bit. First, I've gotta address the elephant in the room. Yes, a lot of people died during the war arc. I know that. Still, feel free to comment down below anyway, because engagement and all that. To be honest, when I first read the war arc, I was 100% hyped for it. We were finally getting the climactic battle that Horikoshi had been leading up to for ages, but over time I've actually soured on it, and it's taken me quite a while to put my feelings into words. So here goes. All of the deaths outside of Twice were inconsequential. This is because we, the audience, have no ties to them. Crust was only featured in a single episode before his death. Majestic is so bare bones that his goals section on the My Hero Wiki says defeat the Paranormal Liberation Front. We still don't know what Native's quirk is. I guess we never will. Exelus's greatest contribution to the story was Shiggy's drip, and Midnight, let's be honest, she was always a gimmick character. So once again, at the risk of sounding callous, no one cared about these characters' lives. So why should you care about their deaths? Just imagine if in Avengers Infinity War, the only people to get dusted were the Wakandan soldiers and fucking Ned. Sure, we all love Ned, but all in all, it wouldn't mean much for the story. That's basically what's happened here. Hell, it would even be different if the students of Class 1A learned something from Midnight's passing. Similar to Ida's murdering murderous rage and subsequent growth at the hands of Stain back in season 2, but that's just not the case. Outside of a few offhand comments, it's almost as if she never died. It also doesn't help that we got faked out not once, but twice in this arc, with the perceived deaths of both Gran Torino and Bakugo. Now, it may not seem like it, but Gran Torino is alive as far as the manga goes. Sure, his life of geriatric heroics is over, but he's still kicking. And Bakugo, hell, Horikoshi is so afraid of killing Bakugo that he was willing to tear down the entire power system that this world is based on. So no, in my opinion, the war arc did nothing to create stakes in this world. If anything, it did the exact opposite by showing that the only characters in this series that are even capable of death are no-name heroes and lovable villains, which is just sad because there was a time when Shigaraki's hand hovering over someone kept me on the edge of my seat, and now I just don't give a shit. So let's just move on to the next issue, the series' inconsistent build-up. This may seem like an odd complaint, but considering that many of the good things that I've said about My Hero in this video are based on how Horikoshi managed to build up to a satisfying climax, you should now understand how much that means to me, and how sad it makes me that this aspect of storytelling has abruptly fallen to the wayside in favor of sudden saves and two-panel exposition. If you don't know what I mean, I'm talking about Mirio getting his quirk back. There was a time when large developments like these would be hinted at whole arcs in advance, causing the My Hero community to swell with fan theories. Back then, it was fun to be a fan. Yes, you still had shitheads that would take a single scene in a movie out of context and use it to support their hypothesis, but they were outliers within a group that was so dedicated and loving that they spent hours analyzing a single flashback. Now, on the other hand, you can't go a single chapter without Horikoshi pulling something out of his ass, whether it makes sense or not. This causes what small semblance of suspense that battles have to evaporate in seconds. In Mirio's case, we should have seen panels during the remedial course, UA School Festival, and or joint training arcs alluding to Eri's attempts at controlling her quirk. Then Mirio's arrival would feel earned, but instead all we had to work with was Eri's horn changing in size and 1 to 2 panels of exposition about how she'd been working on lizards specifically to gain control for Mirio's sake. It's just so underwhelming. And I know there's some of you out there thinking that this is just one incident. Yeah, it might feel cheap, but is it really enough to ruin an entire series? To which I'd say, oh no. Unlike every cheating spouse in media history, this was not a one-time thing. These sudden and miraculous cure-alls pop up every damn week. It's gotten to the point where I honestly believe that All For One could collect enough of Deku's sweat to synthesize his own version of One For All. You don't believe me? Well, at the risk of spoiling a pretty lackluster moment, I'd like to ask you all a question. Did you know that a paperboy can repair a ravaged heart with nothing but a few threads of denim? Now, I know that'll make no sense to you anime onlys, but just keep it in mind for when season 7 rolls around. Trust me, you'll get the hate. All jokes aside, I can't begin to explain how much it blows for fans like me when you just pull plot elements out of a hat. It just gets worse and worse from here on out. Like I said earlier, Mirio getting his quirk back so suddenly is not what broke me as a fan, but it was the crack in My Hero's foundations that then widened, allowing quirks, characters, and equipment to pop up out of nowhere. So with that in the books, it's time to begin wrapping up this video with our third and final topic, My Hero's lackluster reveals. In this segment of the video, I'm going to be spoiling a fairly large plot point from the manga, so if you're an anime only and you don't want to be spoiled, I'd highly recommend clicking the card right up there to watch one of my other videos. With that out of the way though, let's talk about my absolute favorite character in My Hero Academia, Aoyama. Yuga Aoyama was first revealed all the way back in episode 4 of the anime during the UA entrance exam. After passing, he is seated in class 1A alongside alongside our main cast of characters and endures all the same trials that they do. Throughout the first 3 seasons of the anime, we see every possible shade of this character. We see his overwhelmingly self-absorbed side, we watch as he cowers in fear, and we witness his odd penchant for self-destruction. If you're an active part of the My Hero community, you probably know that for a long time, it was theorized that he was the UA traitor. The main piece of evidence being his odd behavior toward his whereabouts during the USJ attack, among other things. Over time, more and more possible culprits arose, such as Kaminari, Hagakure, and even Deku, albeit unwillingly. But the community never seemed to forget about how weird Aoyama could be at times. Fast forward a few hundred chapters and it's finally revealed that yes, Yuga Aoyama was the UA traitor all along. Countless theoreticians were finally proven right after so long, and it felt great, or it should have felt great. But the way this gigantic bombshell was revealed was so incredibly bland and uninteresting, not to mention that it was revealed out of the blue. After several arcs of not even mentioning the traitor, Horikoshi decided to answer one of the story's most enticing questions, but it felt like an afterthought. If you didn't know, Aoyama is unmasked as the UA traitor by Hagakure after overhearing a conversation that he was having with his parents. This would be a fine reveal if it was something small, like what Mineta's dorm room looks like, which I've seriously been wondering about for so long. But the UA traitor is and has always been a big deal, and that's not just my feelings on the topic. Horikoshi himself has obviously put so much effort into this plot ever since Aoyama's debut in episode 4. Throughout the first 3 seasons, we see the cracks begin to form in his traitor facade, as he goes from a pretentious snob to someone who would sacrifice his own future for others. When looking back on his actions with this knowledge, you can see the painstaking effort that was put into this plotline, such as Aoyama's repeated attempts at hindering his own progress in both the final exam and provisional licensing exam arcs. And that's not even mentioning his actions in the forest training arc, where we now know he truly was risking not only his life, but that of his family to save the friends that he'd grown to love. There are so many subtleties to Aoyama's character that I could make an entire series of videos about it. But in the end, all of that work was rendered moot with its unnecessary fast-paced reveal. It was almost as if Horikoshi had forgotten about the UA traitor and decided to use it as a convenient way to set up the final battle. And it's incredibly saddening to see such an interesting storyline be completely tripped up just a few feet from its finish line. At this point, Horikoshi has begun to develop so many bad habits that I can't hold out hope for a satisfying conclusion to this series. While I would never deem My Hero Academia to be trash, undeserving of its popularity like many others have said in the past, I don't think it's going out on a limb to say that the story's best days are behind it. But what do you think? Are you still a diehard fan of the series? Or have you waned in fandom like me? Drop your feelings and anything else you'd like in the comments down below, and while you're at it, why not like this video and subscribe to the channel for more awesome anime content? That's it for me though, so as always, I've been That Isekai Guy. Now go watch some anime. Psst. Hey you. Yeah, you. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if you woke up one day in the body of a spider? Well, click on the link here and find out.